Hello, everyone. Welcome to the pod. My name is Maria Jose Fernandez. I'm a student at Barry University, majoring in public relations and advertising. And I'm here with Joy Taylor, an American personality and TV host for Fox Sports. Nice to meet you, Joy. Thanks for being here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be in this beautiful new podcast studio.
How does it feel to come back to your alma mater?
It's always very exciting. It's always nostalgic. Some, memories that I hadn't tapped into for a while always come back because I've spent a lot of time here, particularly in this building, editing and working on schoolwork. So it's always really special to come back.
Did you knew from the beginning that you wanted to be a sports personality or work in the media industry?
I did. Yeah. I as soon as I got to Barry, I really dug in right away into the media business. I talked a little bit earlier about the radio side. That's really where I wanted to start my career. And I was in class one day and someone from WBRY, from the Barry University radio station, came into class and said that we needed hosts for the station, for the student station. And I couldn't believe it. There were slots available. I was like, okay, great. Let me run over there before they get filled up and start my show and start learning how to do it. So yeah, it's always been a passion of mine. And it was really exciting to be able to tap into that here at Barry.
Can you share with us some of your best memories when you were a student at Barry University?
Oh, I mean, doing a lot of editing, getting to hang out with a lot of my friends here that I went to school with in the editing booths here, working on projects. I think my favorite Barry University story, though, is when I decided to come to Barry. I came down to look at a bunch of different schools. And this was a long time ago. So we did not have the Apple Google Maps and all of that. You had to print out directions, and I'm aging myself here, but it was a long time ago. So it was not that easy to get around, and I did not know South Florida at all. So I was calling friends that lived down here to try and help me figure out how to get to the school. And I called Garner Hall. I called the communications department, and I was on the phone with the secretary here, and she stayed on the phone with me for a half an hour, 45 minutes, however it was, while I was driving around South Florida trying to find Barry, gave me directions, set me up with a tour as soon as I got here, got me with a counselor, and got me all signed up right away. It was a really great experience. It made me feel very at home and very safe, and like I was somewhere where they valued not just students, but the experience that you're going to have here. And that was reflected in everything that I did at Barry. All of my professors were very intentional. They really cared about you as an individual, not just getting you through the class, what you want to do with your future and their connections that they had. Everything that I experienced here at Barry was really catered to me and what I wanted to do. Even if everyone else in my class didn't have the same aspirations, everyone had a unique experience. And I think that's something that's really special about Barry.
Yeah, how do you think your experiences at Barry University have shaped your career as a sports journalist?
Oh, it's definitely shaped me a lot. I mean, I had the ability to learn all of the behind the scenes things that go on in the business. And as a talent, sometimes you get a little separated from how everything happens and how everything is made. And it's really a value add to me as a professional to know how everything is done. To know that if I ask a producer for something, that there's a process to them getting that. I can't say at the last minute, I need you to put together this tape or things like that, or knowing how long it takes to edit things and, learning to write. All of my professors here at Barry were constantly telling me, you got to write, you got to write, you got to write. Well, you got to write. You always write. You're going to write for your entire career. So that was something that really shaped me and gave me great skills that I still use today.
When you started your TV personality journey, have you encountered moments when you were really scared? And can you share some of those moments and how you overcome those fears?
Well, I think having the opportunity to be scared is special because, often people will tell you if you're nervous because you care. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you can be nervous because you're unprepared. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, I always make it an intention to be prepared for every situation that I can be. And that helps to make you less nervous. But even if you're prepared, sometimes it can be scary because it's a big opportunity and there's a lot of eyeballs. And the pressure of a big situation like that can definitely shake you a little bit. I think the time that stands out the most that I was truly, truly nervous, there's two of them. One was my first time on air at FS1. I have a picture of my first time on air with Colin because we hadn't launched Undisputed yet, so I was filling in on Colin, and my eyes are so big and watery. Like, I'm so nervous. I'm trying not to say anything wrong. It's my first time on air at the new network, and I think I did fine. I'm sure if I watched it back, I'd be horrified. But I was nervous, So I made it through the first segment, and he was very gracious, as he always is. But that definitely is one time that I was very nervous. And then when I did my radio show solo with Fox Sports Radio for the first time, I was very nervous, very prepared. But again, there's just moments in your career where there's just a lot of pressure, and it's just on you. And you have to show up, and especially if it's opportunities that you asked for and fought for, that's going to add a little extra pressure and anxiety to the situation. But those two definitely stick out.
For students like me that are about to graduate, what advices would you give us?
Well, the first advice that I would give you is to go to Barry. So you're already a step ahead.
Yeah.
I would always say to you to show up as yourself. You will never be better at anything than being yourself. And you'll never be better at someone else at being them. So a lot of times you'll get into a situation where you feel like you need to conform or you need to assimilate to a situation because everyone may not look like you, or everyone might, not be the same gender as you, or everyone might have a lot more experience than you. Like, there's always separators in every room that you walk into. So standing on who you are and what you bring to the table is very important. So don't ever feel like you need to change yourself. It really will make you more uncomfortable. It'll probably make you mess up more because you're focusing so much on being what you think people want you to be. And the reality is you're in the room because of you. So you should show up as yourself. So always stick with your authenticity and stand on who you are. And when you're starting out in the business, just be open to learning all parts of the business. You really will have a better experience in any business the more well-rounded you are, the more that you understand about the business, the more mentors that you have, the more questions that you ask. There's a little bit of an expectation that you should know everything. And the most intelligent people in the world know they know nothing. They're always asking questions. Information is the most valuable currency. So you're not expected to know everything. You're not expected to be perfect because no one is. So ask questions and always show up as yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. I have another question. I heard there that you started your own new podcast.
I did.
What made you start that podcast, and what was the interest of, going to the podcast world?
So I had a sports-centric podcast for about 3 years with Fox. A few years ago, we stopped during 2020. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to do a podcast that was outside of sports. Obviously, my career is centered around sports. My daily show is a sports show. And everything that I've done up until this point, for the most part in my career, has been around sports. But I'm obviously a very well-rounded person. I have thoughts and opinions about a lot of things. And I don't like to force things into spaces where that's not where that's what the audience has come to you for. So myself and my partner, Taylor Rooks, my podcast partner, really wanted to step into the space of culture and, relationships and life and society and have conversations about all of those things. So we started the podcast, Too Personal, to give ourselves a platform to talk about those things outside of our sports careers.
I have a small question. What is your favorite sport? I know you cover a lot, but which one is the most from your interest?
It's tough because I played basketball from, I don't know, 5th grade to my senior year of high school. And I loved basketball, and I loved Michael Jordan, and I thought I was going to go to the WNBA, but I stopped growing in 7th grade, so that dream failed. But I also come from a football family, so I grew up in Pittsburgh, so that is assigned to you at birth to be a Steelers fan, and I've spent so many days, so many nights at games and practices, and I truly love football as well. So it's very tough for me to say. I would say football probably because we are a football family. Yeah. My nephews play, my brothers played, and that's just been in me since I was a baby. And my mother is a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, and all of my aunts and my grandmother were big Steelers fans. So I would probably say football just because that's how I grew up. But basketball is a close second for me because I loved basketball and playing basketball.
So what do you think, stepping aside the basketball and everything, I know you're aware that this summer and the following summers, there's going to be like a huge impact in what it's like soccer. I'm a soccer fan.
Mm-hmm.
And like Copa America is coming, the World Cup is coming. Knowing that soccer is not like a very big sport here in the United States, how do you think these events are going to impact, how the viewership of fans on what soccer is going to be?
I think it's going to be very impactful. Sometimes you need to really experience something, even if it's something that you are adjacent to or watch occasionally, to be able to experience the excitement of a football match. We can call what we're talking about soccer now, so yeah. Football match. Can really open up your eyes to how fun it is and how exciting it is. Obviously, here in the States, soccer is not as big as American football or basketball, but soccer is a massive international sport with millions and millions of fans. And I will say it is growing rapidly here as well. And obviously the access to the games has really changed, the availability for fans to get attached to the sport. So I think that the World Cup is going to be a very influential thing. And I mean, we've obviously here in Miami have, some very exciting activity surrounding soccer. So I'm in Los Angeles and I go to we have a professional women's team there, Angel City. So I'll go to those games a lot. And, we have lots of matches out there as well. So I think it's going to be very influential for here in the States. And as the sport grows and we get more young people in the States growing and developing into, the top players in the sport, it'll also change, the dynamic of the fans and fandom here in the States.
What message would you give that Joy that started school like years ago? What would you tell her?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So none of the rules apply, right? Like I'll still end up here. It's not going to change the course of time or anything, because that's a big caveat. I wouldn't change anything. Well, I'll change some things, but I wouldn't change anything because I love that we're here now and everything that happens, leads you to this point. I would say that, don't get discouraged with the no's too much and really embrace the process. I've had to teach myself that the process is very valuable because especially in a creative industry where there isn't necessarily a straight line to success or a straight line to your dream job, and you might even not know what your dream job really is when you start in the business, that it might not happen and likely will not happen overnight. You're supposed to grow into your greatness. It's not going to come to you right away. Your dream isn't going to come to you right away, and it's not going to end right away either because this business is constantly changing. This room did not have podcast stuff in it when I was here at Barry. It's a completely different space and world in a lot of great ways, and embracing and leaning into change and not getting too caught up in you didn't get this opportunity or you didn't get this raise right now, or you didn't get to move to this part of the business right away, or comparing yourself to what other people are doing in the business. Don't do that either. It's really important to embrace where you are because at some point you wanted to be where you are. You asked for these problems. So it's important to take a moment in every step of the journey, even if it isn't necessarily where you want to be forever, to embrace this part of it because you're not going to come back to this part of it. I was never going to be a student again. I was never going to be a part-time freelancer again. I was never going to do lots of steps that I've taken in my career again. And they weren't always what I wanted to do at the time, but every single step taught me something. And especially when you're a young person starting out in any industry, it can feel like it's going to take forever, and it might. And that you're never going to get the opportunity. You're never going to reach the place where you're comfortable. You're never going to reach the place where you don't even think about going to work because you love what you do so much. And it does take time. And we evermore live in a very instant gratification society. We get everything immediately. If the video doesn't buffer in 2 seconds, I'm gone. And we just need to all be a little more patient and be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself because everyone's not going to be kind to you. So you should be kind to yourself first and foremost. And, I had this and I was very lucky, but it is also important to find a group of like-minded people who support you and understand the business as well. So find colleagues, find friends who are supportive and can understand what you're going through. That's been a big part of me, honestly, surviving in a very crazy business is having a great support system that I can lean into and, sometimes just complain, but also ask for advice or connections, or do you know someone that can help me with this? And then you share and lift each other up. So I know that's a lot of advice, but
Perfect.
those things don't seem so valuable when you start out because you're very excited and you think that everything's going to come to you right away. And honestly, it shouldn't because you're not ready. You're not. You are a baby in the industry. You don't know what you're doing. You may want that big fancy job and obviously the money is amazing and you get to do all the perks, but you have to be ready for that also. So, taking the time to enjoy the process so that when you do get those opportunities, you're cruising is really important.
What do you think about now, for example, the going to the job applying system and everything? And I'm talking about self-experience where I'm applying to jobs and there's an entry-level position and I'm graduating from college and I have a few experience based on internship, based on things I've done in school, but they're asking for 2 to 3 years work experience. So I'm what should I do? What can I do?
It's that was that way. How many years ago did I graduate? I don't want to think about it. It was a long time ago. That was that way too. I don't know. Can we fix that? I think we need to fix that because it doesn't make any sense. Because it was the exact same way when I was graduating as well. It doesn't make sense. How do you get experience if you don't get hired? You can't get hired if you don't have experience. Yeah. So, the best advice I can give is always to tap into any resources and relationships that you have. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to look people up and send emails and bother people. The worst that they're going to say is no or not respond to your email, and that doesn't mean anything. People are busy. People, maybe it went to spam. It is not a reflection of how good you are or the opportunities that you deserve. But I would say oversaturate the questions and the emails and the, ask for coffee or, go out and put yourself out there. And one of the things that I've embraced over the past couple years is saying yes to things and just leaning into new opportunities. And if you get invited to a mixer or you get invited to, a young professionals thing, those connections and relationships are what will help you and move you in your career. Because as I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to find a circle and a group of people that lift you up. But also business is a lot about relationships. And the further along you are in business, the more relationships you have because you've been in the business longer. So it is harder for young people who don't have those relationships to break in, but you can create a bit of energy and noise around yourself by putting yourself out there, by emailing people, by asking about opportunities, by going to job fairs. And you never know which opportunity is actually going to set you up for the next one and which no's are going to be very valuable for you. Sometimes you think that you want this particular position. You fight real hard to get it, and then the company shuts down. You never know what's going to happen. So I would say don't get discouraged, but also don't be afraid to just put yourself out there. Again, the worst they're going to say is no or not respond. And then so what? So you spent 5 minutes sending the email and you put the effort and the energy out there. I don't know how to fix the 2 to 3 year thing because it doesn't make any sense. I'm with you. It was the exact same way when I was graduating as well. But I mean, my first paid job in the business was a part-time radio producer that I think was 4 or 5 hours a day. And it was hourly. So we supplemented with some other jobs, but it's hard when you're starting out to get the right position, but I would say the more energy that you create around it, the more people you reach out to, the more you put yourself in these professional situations, the more that will come back to you.
Thank you so much. Joy, for being here. In the name of Barry University, we are so grateful for you to come to be part of the
podcast studio.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity and to get to meet you. And I hope you come more time to do more podcasts. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.